Welcome back to the Subspace Games YouTube channel. Today we're going to be adding some objects into the game, so we have some things that the ball can bounce off of, and we'll extend the level a little bit to make it a little more challenging. So let's jump right in. The first thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and run the game and make sure that it's still functioning. We'll switch to the overhead view, make sure the camera still works. And everything looks good, so let's go ahead and close that, and let's create an object. So let's go into the Data Explorer, go to Create, Model, Shape, and go to Cylinder. Let's call this Pillar, and then we're going to go on the height, let's go 5, the radius is 2, that should be fine. We want the axis to be along the Y vector, which means that it's going to be tall. We'll hit Create. And let's go ahead and open this pillar up and see what it looks like. Alright, so it's that paint color. Let's go ahead and add, let's just make it the same color as the ball. We'll just make it blue. Also, I want to, let's give it a little bit of shear, because I want to, rather than have it bounce off and at a straight angle, I want it to go a little bit up as well. So if we do 1 in the X direction, then we'll end up with something that looks like this, where it's slanted a little bit. And then let's also right click on it, go to Attributes, Collider, Set as Collider, and that should do it. So let's jump back over to our level, save the object. Let's, in the Data Explorer, go back to Models, and we'll drag and drop the pillar in. Now let's switch over to our default camera so we can see a little bit better what's going on. So I'm going to go to the Scene Explorer, pick the default camera, go to Attributes, Camera, Set as Active Camera. So this is the camera that we don't use in the game, so we can use we don't have to worry about moving it around and messing something up in the game. So let's move this pillar. We're going to rotate it a little bit. We'll put it down here at the end, so it gives us something to bounce off of. And actually, let's open the level up a little bit. So let's rotate that wall around the Y-axis. And then if we click on Translate, then we can move it over, and we'll just slide it up like that. Okay, so let's see from a different angle here what we've got. So we're going to have to make this level here a little bit bigger, so let's go to, or the ground, let's go to Scale, and let's move it so it's a little bit longer. There we go. And let's also scale this wall so it's longer. And let's move it just like that. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and rotate this again just to make this a little more interesting. Move that over. And let's go ahead and duplicate that wall by going to Edit and then Duplicate, and then we can just move this, and let's rotate again around the Y-axis so we get something that's straight like that, and then move it up a little bit, and then let's do a duplication again and rotate again, and then let's just move this to the end of that little leg of the maze right there. Just cap that off. Okay, so now let's take the pillar and let's move it back into the level a little bit. So hopefully we'll be bouncing off this wall here, and then we'll try and hit this pillar in such a way that we'll launch it further down the level there. Alright. So the other thing, so in the forum we had Fableblade come in and suggest that we change the bounciness of the ball. I was going to adjust that later, but since we're putting objects into the game, let's go ahead and adjust the bounciness of the ball now so that it'll go a little bit further. So I'm going to select the ball, Actually, we have the chase cam there, so let's go to the Scene Explorer and actually select the ball. Go to the Attribute Editor, and let's go to the Dynamics Controller and go down to Bounce. And so we're going to make it 5 times as bouncy by setting that to 1, and we'll see what happens. So let's save the scene and go ahead and fire it up. Let's switch over to runtime mode and see what we get. Oh, almost hit it. So let's restart. Let's go a little bit further in that direction. So there's a few things that I want to fix here. I don't know if you noticed, but the chase cam doesn't really work really well when we move the bounce up. It wasn't something that that we were doing while we were programming that, and so it's hard to know how things are going to react. And then the other thing is that the ball went through the wall there, and that has to do with how the physics work. We'll discuss that later, but I went ahead and stopped the code and went in and made some changes to how the chase cam works. And I want to show you what I did here because I like the way it works a lot better. And so when I've left the other code that was here previously in the comments, I'm going to delete it as we go through it. But the first change that I made is that we used to check the speed and distance to the ball because there was a lot of jerking as we followed the chase cam, or the chase cam followed the ball. And what I did is I went into the time factor on some of these functions down here, and for some reason I was thinking that we had to go in tenths, so 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. I actually dropped down pretty far into like 0.02 and 0.08 on some of these, and it made things a lot smoother. And so I wanted to see if I just got rid of this stuff, so I did. Got rid of that. I wanted to see if the chase cam would work well. So that's the first thing I did was I got rid of the requirements there, and I also took out this whole block of code down here that took over when the ball got below a certain velocity. Then there was a separate chase cam code down here, so I got rid of that. The next thing that I did is I came in here and I still want a little bit of an adjustment based on the speed. So I changed the translation of the camera to only be affected when the speed is greater than 5. So below that the camera is going to stay put and then just follow the ball with the by changing the angle of the view rather than moving the camera, and that worked pretty well. I also went in on the translation and I changed this, like I said, the time factor I put to 0.02, and you'll see it's quite a bit smoother. And then the dynamics, if the speed is less than 5, I'm going to turn the linear damping up on the ball so that it'll come to rest quicker. So I'm changing the dampening on, before was I think it was 0.1 or 0.01, but I changed it to 2 here. And then the last thing is on the look at code, I changed the time factor to 0.08. So again, it's a lot more fluid. Now because I'm setting the linear damping when the speed's less than 5, then when we reset the ball to the beginning of the level, we need to reset the linear damping back to what it was. So I also went over to the AimCam AI handler on inner frame, and where we're resetting the location of the ball and everything, I just went up here and I put set linear dampening to 0.01. So let's go ahead and jump over to the game again, and let's try launching the ball. So you'll notice that the camera, it takes a lot longer for the camera to catch up to where the ball is, but everything's a lot smoother. We didn't have to have 2 sets of code, and I think the increased bounce on the ball, we don't have to worry about that too much. Oh, that's one thing that I did forget to show you. If we'll just jump back over to the code, the other thing that I changed was that I was adjusting the camera Y position according to the location of the ball. So I was going 2 units above, so as the ball bounced, the camera was moving up and down quite a bit. So I set this to a static value of 5. Again, there's a lot of constants in these functions. I'm going to go through and clean everything out and put it into our XML file. This is just to get things working. Once I get things set, then I'll go back through and clean up the code. But that works pretty well. The only thing that I have concern about is in some of the levels, if I decide to have part of the level where you have to go up quite a large vertical distance, then we may have to adjust that later. But all in all, I think it looks good. So I had that object in there, and I purposely set it so that if we just go with the starting position, it should come through and hit that object. So that's kind of the idea of the game. In the future versions of the game, you'll actually be able to move the object in the game rather than what I had to do is go through the level editor and move it. But you're going to position these objects so that when the ball comes through, it'll hit those, and you'll be able to bounce it from object to object till you get to the end of the level. So we've added a little bit of functionality. We've changed the way the chase cam's working. I think everything has been for the better. As you probably noticed by now, there's a lot of when we're dealing with prototyping, there's a lot of iterations. So you make a change, you play with it, you see how it's working. If it doesn't work quite the way you want it to, then you go back and make a few changes. Hopefully you'll take part in the iteration process and go to the forums and make some comments. Go play the prototype and see what things you don't like or what you do like, and please leave some feedback. So what we've been doing, a lot of what we're doing here in this particular video was from some comments from Fable Blade, if you remember, and so I do take those things into consideration. I do like to use them and take your feedback and put it to good use and make changes in the game. So please visit the website subspacegames.com and then go to the forums and go to the game prototype and let me know what you think. Leave some comments below, and we'll